Sveiki gyvi, sveikinuosi ir linkiu paklausyti šios naujos Lietuva Amerika serijos. Ši serija yra, kaip visos mūsų serijos, tikrai ypatinga. Vėlgi mes senai nesame matę galbūt mūsų žiniasklaidoje apie tai, kas vyksta Sakartvele. Sakartvelo žmonės, bent jau tada, kada mes įrašėme šią seriją, jau skaičiavo 251 nesustojančių protestų dieną. Šioje serijoje mes kalbame su Nino Evgenidze, bene svarbiausia ir labiausiai matoma Sakartvelo pilietinės visuomenės veikėja, kuri, aišku, yra baisiai persekiojama dabartinės neteisėtai išrinktos valdžios. Tad linkiu pasiklausyti, ką gerbiama Nino turi pasidalinti su mumis ir gero klausimo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mrs. Evgenidze, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on as our guest, and especially in times where we hear, less and less every day, every week about what's going on the ground in Sakartvelą, in Georgia, with the situation with the illegal, regime of Georgian Dream under both Irakli Kobachidze and Nino Evgenidze. So we wanted to speak with you, Ms. Evgenidze, about what's going on the ground, what we can do to help, and the historical ties about what's going on. Is this a deepening trend that we have around the world, and as such. So before we start and throw ourselves into the discussion, Mrs. Evgenidze, if you could give us a short introduction as to who you are, your background, and then we can start.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you so much, Shigis, and you to having me here in this podcast. It's a great honor for me, and I'm Nino Evgenidze, an executive director of the Economic Policy Research Center, which is one of the oldest civil society organization, NGO in Georgia. I'm also, co-founder of the Tbilisi International Conference, together with the McCain Institute and the Bush Center of United States. I'm a founder of the Leadership Academy for Development with the Stanford University and Professor Francis Fukuyama and the Stanford faculty. I'm also the co-publisher of the American Purpose, which is American most popular magazine. And also my background, I'm a PhD in literature from Tbilisi State University. But later then I got my master's degree from the London School of Economics. I'm master in economics, and I got my MBA from the Maastricht University Business School, and I got my master's degree in public policy from the Vienna University. I was a visiting scholar at the Johns Hopkins University and the fellow of the Stanford University, the Center for Democracy, Development, and Rule of Law. I worked for the government for 11 years, and since that time, then I moved to the civil society organizations and doing a lot of different activities. And right now, we, as many civil society Georgian organizations, are in a front line for fighting for our freedom and democracy. Right now we are under the investigation, and there is that there might be criminal charges imposed against me, which only with one a particular law, it looks like that I'm gonna be for at least 2 years in a prison. not to obeying the Russian regime and the law. But there are 3 different laws, which according to 3 different laws, there is an investigation, not only against me, but some 8 other civil society organizations who are in the front line for defending the freedom and democracy here in this country and fighting against the Russian regime. Sorry, it's not short, but here we are.
Okay, Nino, I'm one of the voices that always support your freedom. But honestly, we have a debate. Like currently, we have a social democratic government who accused me of that fight. They were friends of Georgian Dream until Georgian Dream was, part of the socialist group. So explain, also maybe our socialists or Lithuanians, how actually this government transformed into state capture. Because for me, Georgia is becoming Belarus. Even fines are becoming Belarusians. You are fined for demonstrating. You are fined for, looking to some websites. It's becoming Belarus. Though it sounds so dramatic for us because we started this change in the East from Georgia. And now you are at the bottom of everything. We are trying to start negotiations with Moldovans, with Ukrainians. Georgia is not even mentioned. We are even thinking about introducing visa regime to Georgia in October, at least in Brussels. This is happening. So how this transformation happened and what can we learn from it? After kind of elections, democratic elections, you turn into Belarus. How it happened?
Okay, just to start from the beginning, that Georgia is not going to be every time sooner the Belarus, and I'm pretty sure on this. Maybe the methods and the instruments and the repression, whatever the Georgian government is using against the Georgian people, is the same as a Belarusian, and maybe it's more Russian rather than Belarusian. It's the same for me, but the people and the country is a totally different one. And we are agreeing on everything. And first of all, let me express my gratitude to Lithuania as a whole country. Does not matter what kind of party you belong, guys, because your support and that the friendship and really brotherhood, I can call it, is really, it looks like a very unconditional love. I'm always joking that we've done something good in our entire history, that we deserve this unconditional love from our, first of all, our Lithuanian friends and the partners, and all Baltic countries as well. And we are very, very grateful on that regard, and the situation, that is, as the Ernst Hemingway mentioned, how we get there, it was that the happening gradually, and then it happened suddenly, And I remember somewhere in 12 years ago, when we were having these discussions and everything, Žygis, together with David Kramer and Frank Fukuyama, were in the world only 3 people who believed me that this regime who came to the power of Georgia, they were the totally Russian regime. Because my main point, even at that time, was that first of all, oligarchy and a democracy is not compatible. It's not gonna work together. And my main message on that direction was that maybe I'm wrong, but there is no any historical or scientific evidence that these two systems can work together, And when we're talking about the oligarchy, that after 2008 war, when Georgia was occupied by the Russians, we all understand that the Russians is not gonna stop on this stage, because with the help of all our international community at that time, they were trying their best, especially the United States was leading that Georgia not to lose its sovereignty and independence. And they stopped the Russia's further invasion of the Georgia at that time, and Georgia was continuing to be a democratic country. And what is Russia's main goal? Not to have anyone who is performing better than the Russia, and that their main goal was to they cannot defeat the Georgians by like forces or occupying them. And there was a different type of using the warfare, hybrid warfare elements without weapons or that the tanks or invading the country with a military way. They started to using, and I think that the Georgia was a first playground or the pilot project for them using this all hybrid warfare instruments against the country. And I remember I was visiting the different European and that the US the counterparts, and explaining that in 2012 that whatever regime came to Georgia's that the power, they're not going to be the pro-Western or pro-European regime, and they will start that the gradually deteriorating the Georgia's democratic the development step by step. They were kind of using this Janus face, that outside playing and having this nice that the statements, they are the pro-Europeans, but inside of the country they were kind of backsliding every single time. Even I'm an economist and I can bring you figures. Even if you look to the economic figures and the economic structure of the country or strategic economic that the project, all this time that the Georgian Dream government, they were kind of doing all economic projects which was bringing Georgia to the closer to the Russia, and all projects, economic projects, whatever was bringing Georgia to the West, they were all stopped and diminished, especially the Anaklia Deep Sea project was one of the biggest, the building the one of the biggest deep sea port in South Caucasus, and also, as that the Georgia's one of the main, that the role which is bringing the closer, that the West and the East together, and that was kind of after the Lavrov statement, what the Americans are gonna doing in the Black Sea was one of the main message that Bidzina Ivanishvili started to deliberately kicking out Western investors, and especially the Americans, from this building this deep sea port in Georgia. I mean, all this started not when war started in Ukraine. It was before all these things were happening, And if you ask when it started, when it happened suddenly after the war in Ukraine in 2022 started, because there was that the Georgian Dream government have to make the decision which part or which side they are. Are they supporting, and they cannot maneuvering anymore, on the both sides, because before this war, unfortunately, the West also was so comfortable working with the the Georgian Dream government, because they do not have any ambitions, They were not asking anything. They were not asking the Georgia's integration to the NATO. They were not asking the Georgia's integration to the European Union, and they were not asking anything. And of course, unfortunately, the West at that time was so comfortable working with them, because the Georgia was not kind of a distractive element between having the West and the Russia, a kind of a good relationship. And all these crazy Georgians, we don't need them to make the situation getting worse and worse in this region. And it took the European Court of Human Rights, can you imagine, the 13 years to saying that not Georgia, but the Russia started the war in 2008. And all these 13 years, Georgia as a country was booed by the international community, saying that all the Georgians are crazy. They started the war against the Russians. Maybe we are emotional people, but not crazy to start the war against the 165 million people, because we are 3.5 million people. And this is kind of the nonsense. But unfortunately, they were believing in this, And we ended up right now here. And I can understand that, Žygis, your question, how the country, which was occupied in 2008 by Russians, 20% of its territory, and how the country with the more than 80% of the support of the Georgia's Euro-Atlantic integration is facing this kind of problems, whatever we are having right now. And you know that there are 65 political prisoners there, including all political party, major political party leaders. And these people are the Zurab Japaridze, Nika Gwaramia, Mamuka Khazaradze, Badri Japaridze, Irakli Okruashvili, Givit Argamadze, the famous Georgian journalist Zia Maglobeli, she's the first female, the Georgian journalist and the founder of the independent media, outlet. She's sitting in a prison almost 7 months now. And other brightest representatives of the students, poets, actors, musicians, movie directors, theater directors. These are people who are sitting in a jail and accused only because they love their country and they're fighting for their freedom. And the reason why it's happening right now and why Georgia is a matter. Georgia is not a Las Vegas. Whatever happens in Georgia, it's not going to stay in Georgia, guys, because we all understand that the very small, tiny Georgia is bigger than Georgia on a global and international implication itself. Because the global authoritarianism, what is going right now, and we will never imagine in our life that Georgian government will have a strategic partnership with the Chinese Communist Party. We will never imagine that. The so-called prime minister going to the Tehran, sitting next to Hezbollah, Hamas, and all kind of terrorist organization leaders together, and sitting in the same room where they're chanting the death to Israel and death to America. No, we will never imagine this, in our entire life. But it's really happening right now. And the people, the only, the only reason why it's not happening right now, that they are not consolidating or they're not controlling a country all itself, because of the resistance of the Georgian people. And today is 251 days, guys, non-stop, uninterrupted fight of the Georgian people. This fight is continuous last 25 years against the Russian imperialism. But right now,
if I'm interrupt, because you touched on a very, very important thing, that these protests have been going on for almost 250 days now, which is huge. This is unprecedented.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another time in history when they've been going on for so long, and yet we see, at least I see in my media feed, that this doesn't get reported on nearly enough. And no matter how much I think the Sakartvelan people want to stand up and to actually have democracy in their country, in your country, without the constant support of the West, I don't know how we can bring Sakartvelą back to our side, back to the West. So my question to you is the European Union and the expanded West doing enough, or to support pro-democracy movements in Sakartvelą? And if not, what needs to be done?
Yeah, I don't think that we're very grateful whatever they're doing in support of Georgia, but all these years, that our fight was kind of and now this fight is continuous almost 1 year. And unfortunately, that only solution, and I will start what we achieved so far, standing for 251 days in the streets. We are kind of attacked by the government. There is a repression and all these things. But first of all, let me underline, no one left the country. No single a major that the protest or whatever leaders from the political parties or the civil society organizations, no one left the country. We all receiving the hundreds of invitations to move this or another country with the great jobs and the great salaries. We're saying, no, this is our country and we're going to fight to the end. We know we are fighting from very, kind of perspective, having the most pessimistic scenario that we are alone in this fight, and we all understand that if West and our friends are going to help us, which we think that is very, very important, it does not matter who is going to help us, we're going to continue our fight, But in this fight, the support of our Western partners, and especially, again, I would like to underline that the role of the Lithuania, because Lithuania was the #1 country who imposed the sanctions against the Bidzina Ivanishvili and the Russian regime, and then we saw this like a great example following other Baltic countries. And also we already have the 9 different countries who imposed the sanctions against this Russian regime so far. And we have more than 250 people under the different type of sanctions from the 9 different countries, including the Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Germany, Poland, United States, United Kingdom, and Czech Republic so far. As you understand that the European Union cannot came to the united decisions because of the, the ban of the Orban regime and supporting the Georgian Dream government to impose the personal sanctions against the Bidzina Ivanishvilis and their government representatives. But we have still in our, that the pocket, the possibility and the opportunity to impose this individual country sanction mechanism, which done by the Baltic countries, but we don't see the the broad support from other European countries to impose the same even the travel bans, all kind of sanctions works, guys. And whoever tells you that the sanctions doesn't work, that's not true, because we see what we achieved. We have some around 1,000 people altogether under the sanction list. We have that all major political, that the high-level representatives, including the Prime Minister, Minister of Interior, Minister of Security, Minister of that the Economy, Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, and various a different type of law enforcement agency, prosecutor generals, and they left the government, which again underlines the importance and the role and the the power of the sanctions, and we need more countries on that camp, and before revoking, and to answer your question, that the Žygis, to revoke the visa liberalization from Georgian people, I don't think that this is a wise decision, because the people are still here. There is a 42 Celsius hot outside, and yesterday 1,000 people came to the the streets protesting against this Russian regime. There was again 251 days, and you cannot bring any example in the world which the people were fighting for so many days, every single day, everywhere. And it's not only Tbilisi, it's a 43 different cities where the uninterrupted protest is going every day, you know. And again, the urgency of the Western, Western countries, we all understand there is many things is going. There is a conflict in Israel, in Gaza, in first of all the Ukraine, because I mean the winning the Ukraine is in this war is going to be changing everything, and of course the Georgian people supports the Ukraine's fight against the Russian imperialism, you know. And I don't know some other countries, guys. I respect all nations who are supporting with the Ukrainians, but the Georgians are #1 country after the Ukrainians, having the the volunteers, 4,000 people. In 2008 war, the 4,000 people were the Georgian army itself, you know. And we have more than 120 Georgian soldiers who heroically that they fell there, which is again #1 after the Ukrainians by casualties, you know. That the people here is a different. People are different from, again, to underline that the Zhigis, why we're different situation from what is going in Belarus or the Russia. The country and the people are different here, and we never ever stop to fighting.
Provoke you maybe a bit more positively, because I still, I was in the first group of those foreign experts still with late Ron Asmus, with Bruce Jackson. I remember flying a helicopter after Rose Revolution. I saw the destruction of Georgia, and I saw, the beauty of your reforms. I saw Georgia to re-emerge. But when you see those setbacks, my ambassadors in Tbilisi were always telling me, Žygis, this is like you said, this is a very old European nation. They will never be turned into slaves. They will win. But my problem is that, Lithuania used the window of opportunity. And for some strange reasons, I think this window is opening like every 25 years. Now Ukrainians opened it also for Georgia. After so many fights, we finally got candidate status to Georgia. We are still fighting for NATO enlargement, and surprisingly, we have Europeans united on NATO enlargement. We just have problems in Washington, D.C., but we can solve it. So tell me, now it seems, I would say there is window still opened. There is a kind of perfect storm coming in Caucasus, because Armenia and Azerbaijan finally getting together. I hear even that they are building some gas or oil networks that circumvent Georgia to Turkey. That Georgia is becoming not relevant, but you still have this great development. Russians are busy with the war with Ukrainians, and it will not be easy. It will take their blood and energy. But my problem with Georgian was always that I think those are Russians who kind of compartmentalized you. You are all living in your own little worlds. You have strong think tank world. You have strong civil society. You have parties who are kind of not so much connected with civil society. You have them bureaucrats, you have them actors. You all live in your life. And this is impossible to win autocracy like that. We won autocracy by Sąjūdis, like Solidarność. Though we are different, but we united and we made the change. Because the window is closing, I don't know whether, Trump will actually sell us to Russians or not. We will see what's happening after, all those visits of Witkoff and so on. But EU is trying to take the lead. It's trying to get tough. That's why this visa regime is the toughness of EU. We spoke with Georgian Dream for, 15 years. We asked them to do it. It's enough. It's time to punish. If you don't behave, your country will be punished. You have to feel the consequences. So EU is becoming kind of American a bit. So tell me, because those are the last months, do you see some possibility of uniting for the future of Georgia? I mean, think tanks, politicians, everyone, even finally, the bureaucrats who are leaving the government, they show that it's painful for them, because if you don't do it, I'm speaking like a Lithuanian who really love Georgia, I think window will be closed. And then you will turn to Belarus, you want it or not. And then only your kids and my kids, maybe Vincentas, will continue that fight. I still want to do it. I still have that Georgian cross, actually, that I always show to my, oh my God, Mike, this is from your Anchis Hati. This is my mission to save your country. But I'm desperate. If you don't do it till this autumn, next spring, window might be closed.
Yeah, just to answer to these questions, on uniting the Georgian society itself. Historically, we are very individualist, but this individualism is not always the weakness, it's always like sometimes it's a strength as well. Because for the regime, to defining who is in the top of the that the system, the protest or whatever, it always was a very difficult to find someone, because all Georgians in a leadership of this protest, and which is a very unique that the situation right now we're facing. And you mentioned that the Russians are taking the country, and so yes, I can agree with you, because it's all about the economics, why we are in this situation, because the Russia together with the Bidzina Ivanishvili's regime managed to use the country Georgia for the helping the Russians to avoiding the sanctions, and also to making the Georgia kind of the transnational, the criminal money laundering hub or whatever. Because if you look to the figures, what is going on in the Georgian economy, and if anyone will tell you that the Georgian people are benefiting Russians being here, that's not true, because that the Georgian peoples are not benefiting the Russians being in this country, because all economy was kind of converted, and the Georgian Dream government, we have to blame them on that regard, became kind of based on the serving the Russians here, and it does not affect, or it's not spreading of the welfare of the Georgian people, because we still have 1,200,000 people who are getting the social assistance from the government. It's official information by statistics. We have that the 300,000 kids who are in hunger by the UN, that under the poverty line, and they cannot even have the sufficient food during the day. And we have the official information that the 300,000 Georgians left the country last 2 years, which again underlines that the Georgians are not benefiting the Russians being here, again. And when we're talking about the global problem, why is the problem of Georgia might be problem for the Lithuania, Ukraine, or some other nations as well? Because it's Russia's a special operation to exporting the corruption. And with exporting the corruption, they're capturing the state. And normally how it starts, they're first capturing the land, how it happened with the Georgia and Ukraine. After that, they're capturing the institutions. And after that, they're taking all country. And they're right now in this level that they're getting ready to take all this country, to their pocket. Only obstacle on that way, there is a Georgian people and ongoing protest. But in this fight, we are missing the support of our friends. And Zhigis, you mentioned that they want to showing that the European Union is trying to showing their strengths, and unfortunately, if they were strong, they can impose the sanctions against the Bidzina Ivanishvili and all these enablers, and we're fighting, and we're for that to impose the sanctions against from the European Union for a long time. All their statements until it not get too bad was so blunt, no one can understand, and it was a issue of for the different opinions and the government propaganda, and especially the Russian propaganda were using this against our Western allies. And I mean, the situation, you cannot blame the only Georgian people here in this situation. Unfortunately, we were used to be left alone all the time. There are some exceptions, of course, including the Zhigis, Vrasa Yuknevičiane, Landsbergis, all these great Lithuanians who are supporting the Georgia's fight. But some other places of the European continent, you cannot find people like them, who were really understand the cause of the fight of the Georgian people against the Russian imperialism. And you mentioned also about the positive development with Azerbaijan and Armenia, which I don't think that anyone in Georgia is envy of this. It's contrary. It's again underlines that we are not alone in this fight, and Armenia's role to moving to the European orbit is very, very important for Georgia. That was a problem for Georgia all this past 35 years that Armenia was not together with us, because we were having the only child in this region who were fighting for the Georgians or for this region to being on the close to the Europe. And Armenia's positive steps on that regard is very important. But again, when you are saying that maybe Georgia is gonna left on a side, again, if you ask our Armenian friends, if Georgia is not gonna succeed in this fight right now, and why the urgency and the importance of the West supporting the Georgia in this fight is very important, because it automatically means that the Armenia will survive in their European future fight, because of that. You cannot dispatch this or split this that the countries who were having, at least on this level, on this stage of our development, the same shared values. It should be the that the interest and also the interest for the West to pay more attention to this region, because if Ukraine is not going to win this war, I'm pretty sure, and I don't want even to predict, but it will happen the same with them, whatever happened with us, And I strongly believe that the Ukrainians learned these lessons, and they're not allow anyone in the world, and especially the European or some other bureaucrats, to let them to repeat this mistake again. And I'm pretty sure that the victory is very close, because maybe we look now, how to say, oppressed or see all these people in a jail or whatever, but the system itself is very fragile. They're shrinking inside. They were having the internal gangster wars inside, which again, it's a great momentum for Georgian civil society and also for our Western partners to impose more sanctions against them and to
and that's
weaken
exactly something that I'd like to touch on.
Yeah.
if I may, because it sounds as though Georgian society as such, or at least civil society, is very much on board and on the same page when it comes to saying that, you know, the current regime is completely illegitimate, not democratically elected. And yet, and of course, 251 days of protest day after day. And yet something that has always been missing for me has been the lack of reaction from not government structures, but state structures such as the police, diplomats, also like firefighters and stuff like this, you know, that they seem to be, on the most part, compliant with the illegitimate regime. I mean, yes, I mean, at the start of the protest, we did see some, you know, firefighters opening up their water storage, you know, refusing to spray the protesters. But what's keeping the police and all of these, and of course the military as well, why are they towing the line together with the Georgian dream? What's stopping them from joining the people as such in their fight for democracy? This has always puzzled me.
Yeah, I mean, you know that when we're talking about the state capture, again, like, you know, that the main system was like relying on the law enforcement agencies, state security services, and like a Ministry of Internal Affairs, you know, that the police itself. The military, like army, never been involved in this, like, you know, that the in this situation, in this crisis, because you know that the Georgian army, somewhere 80% is trained by the NATO standards and all these things, and the even government was not there to include or bring them to the, like, you know, to this taking of the demonstration or whatever, because they understand that army is only themselves and their, like, you know, that all their composition that to defend the country from the outside, like enemies, but not to involve in the inside, like, you know, that the struggles. The main role now is playing the state security services and like, you know, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the police itself, and also the court. We already have the 57 judges under the sanction list, you know, and they're very much afraid, you know, because of that, because we see that the mess, like, you know, that the resignation from the state institutions, like a Ministry of Internal Affairs, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and some other places, you know, they already created their organizations who are having the, like, a part of the protest as well, which is kind of like, you know, that we need some, how to say, energy and oppression right now, because, you know, that we are also somehow tired, but not like trying our best and having this everyday protest every day, because it's really hard, guys. If you ever protested for 250 days with a non-stop regime, it's really very hard to stay there every single day. And every single day, like, you know, that the Rustaveli Avenue is closed, which again underlines that until we are there, no one can ignore us, nor not the, like, European bureaucrats, because somehow it looks like that whenever we will stop doing this, the Georgia is not going to be anymore the issue or the problem for anyone, you know. And we see that this protest is very important, and also to defending our political prisoners on the international arena, and also the weakening the system by imposing the sanctions against them. And especially, you mentioned that Georgia is not visible, you know, and my main argument is, if the Congress of the United States find the time to adopt the act, which is the, like, a Friendship Act and the sanctions regime against this pro-Chinese, pro-Russian, and the pro, like, Iranian government of Bidzina Ivanishvili, with the vast majority, 345 votes against the 42. It's a huge support of the Georgian people's fight against the Russian imperialism, you know. And as you are aware, this bill is in the Senate right now. It's hotlined. And now we have only one person who is holding this, that the holding this vote is Rand Paul from the MAGA Republicans. But we hope that in nearest future he will rise down his hold on that on the Megobari Act, and it is going to be very soon the official legislation against the Bidzina Ivanishvili's Russian regime here in Georgia, which again will bring them to the negotiation table to get free all political prisoners and to set new dates for the new parliamentary elections. This is only to request what the Georgian protest and the Georgian people are requesting for last a 251 day, to release the political prisoners and to set the new date of the parliamentary elections, which last year in 2024 in October was rigged, falsified, and a lot of international reports will confirm that the elections last year was falsified and rigged here in Georgia. And the Georgian people's a request on this direction is very fair and and we will achieve this result. I'm pretty sure on this.
Okay, Nino, let me finish also on some positive and historic note. You have Vincentas with us. My fourth son is also Vincentas, and he was born just few days after Russian invasion in Georgia in 2008. I was then deputy foreign minister, and I called him Vincentas, hoping that Vincent, it's been winning, Georgian, time comes and you will win. And we did this podcast with Vincentas. We will release it a few days already, commemorating Russian invasion into Georgia that happened, 17 years ago in August. Just trying to remind Lithuanians and whoever is listening for us that it's not Ukraine that has the longest war with Russia, it's Georgia. Because I think this Georgian dream that happened in Georgia is just continuation of this occupation. This is the way Russians take Tbilisi. And you're absolutely right. This is the easiest way to occupy countries, not by military force, but by political occupation. It might happen with Kiev. It merely happened with Romania. It might happen with Moldova soon. We'll see what will happen in elections. It might happen with any of our countries. And that's why we have to be very careful with all those steps backwards towards Russian or Chinese economies, because finally it ends like it now ends in Tbilisi. But I really feel like you that this regime is fragile, as fragile as Putin regime. Soviet Union collapsed in front of my eyes. And I think that moment is gathering. Europeans are getting stronger. We are trying to convince Americans not to make those stupid mistakes like usually they do. And developments in Caucasus are tremendous, historic. So I really hope that we finish our mission together with Nino. I have the order from Saakashvili, order of honor here behind me. So I have to fulfill it. Saakashvili is in prison. All my friends are in prison right now in Georgia, really. All party leaders. And this is sad. This is not the way how you have to treat the people who are so strong, great Europeans like you are. We learned from you how to do the change. McCain, who loved you in a way, he loved us. He was the only congressman or senator who actually supported us in the very beginning. But we finished the job, and it's our mission to help Georgians finish the job in Tbilisi. You are part of Europe whole and free, and only when Europe from Baltic to Black Sea will be Europe whole and free, we can sleep calmly and happily. So really, thank you for your fight.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll never give up. It's a 225 years of fighting against the Russian imperialists. And you cannot find in Georgian history any single year where the Georgians not resisting the Russian imperialists since 1801, and it's not like a first time is happening with us. We know that we are not alone in this fight, and whoever thinks that whatever is going in Georgia is not the same, that the puzzle of the whatever is going in Moldova, in Lithuania, or in Estonia, or in Ukraine, or elsewhere, then they do not have any clue about what the Europe whole and free at peace means for the European security and the world as well. And I strongly believe in freedom and democracy. And I strongly believe that the Georgian people and my generation is going to be the generation who will bring Georgia to the family where it belongs for many, many centuries, because we are one of the oldest Christian country and belong to that European civilization with our culture, with our people, with our identity. And when I'm talking about the identity, it's the democracy, human rights, and being defending our values makes us as a nation, not only the wine making or making the khachapuri. And we believe in this, and till the victory.
Thank you. We are called Georgians of the Baltics. That's why we will stay with you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your support. Thank you for all Lithuanian people, and especially Žygis to you.
Thank you. And see you in Tbilisi.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Na, tikiuosi, ši serija jums patiko. Ką mes išgirdome iš Nino? Supratome, kad ir kokios tos sankcijos bebūtų, jos veikia. Tai kartokime ir kartokime tiek savo valdžiai, tiek mūsų kolegoms užsienyje ir ypač ES, kad sankcijos veikia. Sankcijos, sankcijos, sankcijos. Kitaip būti negali. Tikiuosi patiko ir iki sekančio.